From Columbia Pictures, Ghostbusters is an extremely funny movie. The movie stars Dan Aykroyd as Dr. Peter Venkman, Bill Murray as Raymond Stantz, and Harold Ramis as Egon Spengler. It's about four guys who try to find out if ghosts are real or not. I think they were very brave to do this because there was so much pressure on them to be right. They had people trying to kill them and were scared all the time. I would have been terrified. But these guys knew what they were doing, and they proved that ghosts aren't real. After watching this film, I found myself laughing throughout most of it. This is one of those movies where there's always something funny going on. There were quite a few funny moments that made me laugh, including when the crew had to lift all sorts of things off the ground using just their proton packs, or when Egon kept making references to his missing cat. I liked how the ghost hunters were always joking with each other. These guys really knew how to make you feel like part of the team by constantly breaking into song and dance routines. When they were walking into a haunted house, they said, "We're going in there," and then started singing "It's a Small World." Whenever they needed something, they'd yell, "Ecto 1." That part made me laugh a lot. Every time one of the Ghostbusters got hurt, he'd say, "My proton pack needs replacing," which was even funnier than the jokes. The film also has some amazing special effects which look great, while still looking realistic enough to be believable. One scene in particular involved a giant monster that came out of nowhere and left everyone's jaws hanging open as it devoured everything in its path. It was so cool. There were many more scenes like these that made me feel like I was watching a real live-action cartoon. Speaking of which, I couldn't help but love Sigourney Weaver's character, Dana Barrett. She was such a bitch, and yet she wasn't too bad to look at either. I liked the fact that the characters were very well developed. You could tell right away just what kind of person each was from their personalities alone. There were times when they would talk about their dead parents or about how much they missed their cats. It was nice to know that even though this movie took place in 1985, it didn't seem dated whatsoever. I really wish that I could have met those guys when I saw the movie. I'm sure they must have been very smart and brave, like, maybe I'll go to college next year and become a scientist or something, and then I'll work with them. Maybe I could be a Ghostbuster. The movie's ending was great too. The main characters didn't die like in most movies at the end, like in Star Wars. Instead, they went back to their normal lives. This ending is realistic and shows that you can't fight against what scares you forever. I did not like, however, that two of the Ghostbusters, Peter Venkman and Ray Parker Jr., died at the beginning of the movie. I know it's fiction, but still, that's sad. I did not like some of the jokes, however. Some of them seemed a bit forced, and I'm sure they were probably meant to be funny, but they just weren't for me. For example, at one point Ray says something along the lines of, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." That line doesn't sound nearly as good coming out of the mouth of a guy in a rubber suit. Also, the whole thing about the ghost being afraid to cross the street because he was afraid to get run over made me think back to another scary movie called Poltergeist, which came out a year earlier. At least in that film, the ghost seemed genuinely afraid to leave the house. In this case, it seems like the ghost was simply trying to play a joke on the guys. The whole idea of that bothered me. Overall, I give Ghostbusters 4 out of 5 stars. I really hope that Columbia Pictures makes more films for this franchise because they've got a winner here. And I'd hate to see it go down the toilet. If you want to watch a fun, lighthearted movie, then check this one out today.
Bustin makes me surrender or die. In man against machine, machine